remuneration is authorized by the relevant authority. 5, persons serving on committees or performing specific functions where legislation, when approved policy provides for an allowance or remuneration. So all of them, they tell you that this is to an individual or people. It's not, there's absolutely nothing to do with the company, and the administrator knows this. That is why I did not want to traverse this point anymore. Finance, I don't know who's answering this, about 3 questions to yourself. Where do you get these invoices that you submitted to the administrator for him to sign? And and any other questions that were asked there?
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. I thought I'll not speak today, but yeah. So I'll just give a sense of when it comes to people who are paid through payroll, that's a human resource function. My role as the CFO is to make sure that the payroll account has enough money to meet the monthly payroll cost here. So that's a HR function. Outside of funding the account, finance does not get involved, except when we carry it through to the financial statements. On the issue of advisors being paid through companies, I want to put it on record that I was not consulted as the CFO. If I had been consulted, I would have advised that the manner in which it is being paid is not consistent either with the legislation, the founding legislation, or the PFMA. The only logical conclusion I can reach is that the invoices were submitted from the advisors for signature for payment and were taken to the accounts payable unit for payment. The payment falls below my threshold as the CFO, so I would have never released it on the system. I learned about it in the media like everybody else. Thanks, Chair.
HR, Barry, this is a function of human resource. What is the response there? How would this invoices, how would they have gotten, what would have been the process?
Like I've indicated earlier, Chairperson and honorable members, I was not involved totally in the entire process. I'm hearing about the invoices and the payments for the first time in this session. Thank you.
And from an HR point of view, Gary, you have HR qualifications,
Correct.
and so the principle should be the same from an HR point of view.
What I know is that HR doesn't process invoices, it processes salaries and any other allowance or benefit related to employees, not contractors or rather independent contractors.
Yeah, but HR, remember, these people came with offers from the administrator. So these offers, they would have taken them to HR.
The offer I can speak about is the offer of employment, but my understanding based on these discussions, I don't think that is the same document that we are talking about, so I wouldn't know.
So the other 2 that were paying through payroll, how do you recognize them? As an employee relation, so how do you recognize those ones?
Yeah, as employee relations, we don't process salaries.
No,
But
I'm
I
asking
would
them.
say the possibility is that there were offers of employment. That's the only way payroll can then process a payment called salary.
Okay.
That's it.
Honorable Lodzi.
No, I think we need to find the individuals who were participating in this process, Chair, and I hope that you'll deal with it in your closing remarks. Just one last point here, and then I go to accommodation, because I think the professor here must really be honest to himself, the people of South Africa, and Parliament. You can't tell me that a professor can interpret a section on an act, especially a section that deals with an entity that he's an administrator of. Now, you have said to him, and we're going to read it again, Section 17C reads, the minister with the approval, not even concurrence, the minister with the approval of the Minister of Finance may determine the remuneration and allowances to be paid to the administrator and to any other person appointed in terms of Section 17B. The professor says people have been appointed in terms of 17B. 17C says there needs to be finance minister approval for these people. Now, when we then say to the professor, Professor, what is your interpretation of this section? According to you as a professor now, as someone who want to believe who reads, can advisors be paid without the approval of the Minister of Finance? Maybe let me, and I'm closing on this one, let's remove yourself from the situation. Let's say you're not an administrator, you're not an NSFAS, you are a professor who is analyzing, you've been called to a panel discussion in higher education, you're analyzing, and you've read this section, and we'll put it to you for the last time. If you decide to not respond, it's up to your own conscience. When you read this section as a professor, can any other person appointed in terms of Section 17B to assist the administrator be paid without the approval of the finance minister?
Honorable Lonzi, you have made a conclusion on the matter, and I would like the committee to make a conclusion.
I'm asking a question.
Yeah, but I have answered you on that question.
No, I'm asking a question. I'm asking you again. It's my time.
Yes, you have asked me if I have to remove myself into this, out of the situation. I can't remove myself from the situation.
Don't remove yourself then. Yeah. Can your advisors be paid without the approval of the finance minister?
I got an approval to appoint, right?
I'm talking about payment,
sure,
Professor.
Sure.
I'm talking about payment, Professor.
Sure.
Can.
If you're gonna read 17C strictly as it's written, you will say they can't be paid, right? And I've said to you, when you asked a direct question, did you receive any approval from the minister to pay? And I said no. So I don't know what else you want me to give you.
I'm saying, when you read this as an administrator, can people who are appointed to advise you in terms of 17B be paid without the approval of the finance minister? Like, no, they can be paid. Yes, they can be paid. I move on to student accommodation.
Maybe let's move to student accommodation.
So you are not willing to respond to this question, Professor. It's fine. I think here what we're dealing with is blatant criminality, Chair. There's no question around it. There's no professor in this country who doesn't know what this section says. And this professor before us understands fully well what the section says. He just decided to not follow the law. And I will not be surprised and will follow up that part of the reason why these people were paid as companies is because they may be getting salaries in other state entities in South Africa. And if you know the South African law, you can't be paid twice by two organs of the state. But because they want to hide the fact that they are already receiving payment elsewhere, they then go and smuggle invoices to be paid as companies. And we're going to be able to reveal that. It's blatant criminality what we're dealing with here, Chair. And if you can just give me 3 minutes, because you guys abused me here, and I really want to deal with student accommodation.
No, I will give you, I mean, I'm finished with my questions. I'll give you mine. I just want to give others so that they also ask a few questions. But the point that you're closing on, maybe let's pose it as a question, and let's pose it this way, Administrator. You have appointed, and I'm going to make an example of one, Ms. Dudu Hlachwayo, as one of your advisors. Is she in any other state board? Because I know you are very strong in doing the, what is that word? Due diligence. So is he in any other boards of this? of the state.
Yeah, she will be in the board of
AXA,
AXA, yes.
yeah. Is she drawing a salary, a board fees then, or maybe not a salary, but is she drawing board fees sitting at the Airport Company of South Africa board?
If that board appointment has not expired, yes, she will be drawing board fees.
And when she came to NSFAS, she would have disclosed that she is getting board fees that side in a state-owned board or state-owned entity, and you are appointing her as an advisor in your state, in a state-owned entity. Did she disclose that part?
Yes, I do know that she's serving in AXA, and I don't think that there is any conflict there. Nor is it prohibited that she could serve in the board of AXA. She's not an employee.
So in other words, you're saying your interpretation, and we'll go to that act again, your interpretation of this thing of drawing two remunerations or allowances from more than one state entity is allowed as long as it's not a salary. That's what you are telling us.
I will agree with that interpretation, Chair.
And do you perhaps have an idea of why do we have such an act that prohibits two, or what is it? What is that act?
Just complete your sentence, Chair.
Okay, maybe let me ask it differently. I'm going to give maybe somebody, but I want you and ask your people to help you get Section 30 of the Public Service Act 103 of 94. In the meantime, Section 30 is central to what we're going to talk about, because I want us to traverse a little bit on this thing of due diligence, and maybe we will get to a point where Honorable Lonzi was saying that maybe why Ms. Tudu Hlachwai opted to put in an invoice instead of a salary from yourself is because she was going to have to declare somewhere the board fees, and they are not cheap, those ones. In the annual financial statements of AXA of 2024-2025, she had declared, or they had stated on their annual financial statement that the board fees that she had received there was 775,000 that year for board fees, attendance of meetings, and so we'll get to that point. I think Honorable Lonzi that he was raising about the declaration and what could be this issue of her being allowed to invoice through a company and charge, by the way, the state VAT of 15% VAT there on that, but we'll get to that point. Honorable Zondo, I wanted to give you, you're covered. Yeah.
No, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I think now the chain of my question have been disturbed now, because I think I'll not go back to administrator about the question that I wanted to ask. But I wanted to check. I'm moving in this issue of administrators, of advisors. Administrator, when you get into the office, I think the minister did give you why he wanted you to come and serve as an administrator in NSFAS. Did he give you that?
He has given me the government gazette which is detailed in respect of what needs to be done.
No, I'm not talking about the Gazette. There is a reason why the minister thought he should get an administrator to NSFAS. So that means there are things that were not happening according to how they're supposed to be happening. So he provoked the clause that allowed him to get someone else to save the ship. And I'm asking about that, not about the Gazette. There are reasons to say there is 1, 2, and 3, and 4, which is not happening the way it's supposed to be happening. I think we are sharing the same sentiment that administrators, they come to save the ship. So that's what I'm asking. Did he give you what is not happening according in NSFAS?
Yes, and I'm saying it is detailed in the Government Gazette.
Okay. Is there any plan? You have 3 months in the office. Is there any plan that you have provided to the minister to say, you've called me to come and work here, and there were challenges that you have stated when you appointed me, and this is the plan that I have to turn around the situation. This is the time frame that I think when by this time things should be changed in this organization. Is there anything that you have developed as an administrator?
Yes, I have submitted a stabilization plan after 90 days.
Okay. In your presentation, the first section, you cited things that you find that were not happening according to how they're supposed to be done in the organization. Then I think there are characters involved in the organization. It's like when we're talking about finances, we're talking to CFO, we're talking about employment, we're talking to HR, all the departments that are involved. Is there any process in terms of consequence management that you have embarked on?
Yes, there is processes in which we are looking at certain issues, and those will then result in consequence management if we can then be able to prove that they.
Oh, please, Administrator, don't generalize. I don't want you to generalize your responses. As an administrator, you need to be decisive. You need to. You are someone to take action. If there were action that were not taken, when you are present, you need to make sure that those actions are taken. I know that auditor flag things and go on and say that so and so was supposed to do 1 and 2. He or she didn't do it, and then the consequence is that. And when there is no one to enforce that, as an administrator, we are expected to come and start by those. Those are the low-hanging fruits in your plan. Then we already have 3 months in the office. So that means if you have not started that process, that should say in the next audit outcome, we'll find the same problems not attended to. So that's what I'm asking. I'm not general in my question. I'm straight in the duty that that's why I started to ask, did he give you the report?
Yeah,
and now, how far have you gone?
No, so I think it's important to say that you can't just arrive and just have a sledgehammer approach. To the extent that there is evidence that somebody has committed a misdeeds, you then need to be able to prove those in either disciplinary hearing or any consequence management format that you are going to do. that can't have been the first thing I do when I arrive. The issue of audit is currently on the go, and we will then deal with those issues as we progress. There are other issues that we are seized with. As I indicated earlier, we have requests of scenarios where people that do not work for NSFAS, there has been made bookings for hotels and flights, and we need to understand why such people were made to fly all over the show or be booked in hotels when they were not in the work of NSFAS. That's one. Two, there were questions that were raised in this committee by members of this committee to say, we believe that there is this process that has happened. We don't believe that it was appropriately done, and we want some assurances that it has done correctly. And despite many responses that have been given, the members were not satisfied. So we established an investigation, and we expect to get responses so that we can either satisfy ourselves that those processes were not what they are accused to have been, or it's confirmed that they were irregular. And then we'll take actions from there. So yeah, I think it's only fair that you then are able to make the necessary investigations and be thorough in what you do before you start subjecting people into the disciplinary processes, or what we call.
Okay, thanks, Administrator. Your contract is 2 years, right?
Yes.
Already a quarter of a year is gone. You are 3 months to 4 months. That's the first quarter. Then if your investigations that you are talking about, how long are they going to take? Because we are confined into 2 years. You need to turn around the organization within these 2 years. Then, if my background, I started as an official in the municipality. I became a councillor. Then I became a member of parliament. The chair was saying that he is the oldest member of this committee. Then I'm the second oldest member of this committee. So we understand the issue of administrators. When you come to the institution as administrator, you come and stop things. Say stop, stop, stop. Then we are going to move. Because when you come, it's not like you are just being employed or you're just being called to come and be part of the organization. No, you were called because you need to turn around. And you can't say you have come to an organization and you have 3 months without any action. Because I'm asking about the action that you have taken in these 3 months to say you stop this. You are talking about bookings. You are supposed to say that I've stopped bookings. Everyone who have to go out, it have to pass through me and satisfy myself that this booking is necessary to happen. But I'm asking that. I'm trying to give you that we are familiar with what is expected in administrators when they come to organization. So now this issue of investigation, they can take long. But as an administrator, your effect needs to be felt as you come to the organization. And you are trying to tell me that these officials, they have not felt your presence.
Yeah. No. If that's what the impression you got, it will be incorrect, and maybe let me correct it. So let's start maybe with the simpler things. I arrived and found an organization where people were working from home, literally without any policy. which allows them to work from home, largely working from Johannesburg or wherever else that they could have been. And they will be shuttled up and down. So these things about flights and all that, they will be shuttled up and down on NSFAS funds to come to the office and be shuttled back to their homes. So sometimes they'll come to the office once a week or even, and the cost of that it's enormous, right? And I stopped it. I said, well, people have to come back to the office until we have a policy within which we can operate. And those amounts are huge amounts of money that has saved the state, they have saved NSFAS from the bookings that were being made. We do need to consider whether those funds were expended appropriately, and that means that we must investigate that and ensure that it was correct for people to be transported from their homes back into the office when essentially the office is in Johannesburg.
Okay, thanks.
It's in Cape
Thanks,
Town.
Prof. I think that was my first question.
Yeah.
In fact, you tried to run. I don't know if the spirit is down now to respond to question. I said I'm moving away from advisors section because can you come to the party? That's what I was asking. What you have done as you have come to the office for the past 3 months, and you have coming to answer me now. Okay. On your presentation, there's a section that where you're talking about resolving the issue of this issue of regional offices vis-a-vis. You explain it. Then the question that I've asked, I think it's last time, because this is not a new thing. Even in the 6th administration, we're talking about this thing of regional offices. Then, from your point of view, does NSFAS have capacity to run the regional offices all over the country?
Yes, I've said that we're going to run those regional offices within the constraints of the resources that we currently have, and that's what we're going to do. We don't even have an option, by the way. The lease from the building where we are currently does expire at the end of January, so we do need to have been out of that building. And a decision has been taken that we are going to relocate to Gauteng. We will maintain a presence here. So that process is it's ongoing to identify the offices for those regions and have discussions with employees that may have to relocate and which ones are going to be.
Okay, so that we'll answer further. How long do you think it will take to have functional regional offices?
Look, I mean, I don't want to hazard a guess because it is a process that's on the go right now. Depending on when SCM conclude its processes, because we don't want to find ourselves in the same processes that resulted in this office, we do need to allow the people from SCM the space to do what they need to do. And there is a timeline, I think by the end of October, if I'm not mistaken, they should be able to present to me their final status on the issue.
But Prof, you have answers, just that you don't want to give them. I'm asking for a time frame. You're supposed to say we're targeting October to see how far we've gone, because that's what you're asking. Come October, we'll ask you. You say it in October, you'll have a progress that you have made in regional offices. How far have you gone? Then you answer us according to information that we'll be having on that time. You know, so you have answers, but you are always trying to not answer them. It's like we're pushing you to a corner to answer this question. But simple answers. Time frames, October, we're expecting to have a progress. You know, because we're dealing with people here. Whatever we're discussing here has an effect on the people. Last question, Chair.
Last one.
Sir?
I'm saying last one. The clock.
Yes,
your
yes.
clock
I'm
was,
saying last question, Chair. Yeah. Last time, when I checked with NSFAS, regional offices, there are regional managers. Isn't so? Is there anyone do you have offices in who are running offices in the provinces?
I don't think that is regional offices. NSFAS is run from Cape Town. And there are people that go into different provinces to execute particular actions or duties, but NSFAS is run from Cape Town currently.
Okay, now, thanks, Chair. It was there to say, but we'll need, as an administrator, you need to give us a plan that we can refer on, and even officials that will work on trying to achieve the plan that we've put in the table. That is what we are expecting from you, because we can't do everything. As you are tasked, we are expecting you to give a lead to this organization so that you deliver to the expectation from the people. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I'm just worried that we may not have enough time. Well, everybody is going to speak, those who have not spoken, trust me. I'm saying we may not have enough time to finish the points that were covered, including the plans of when do they go live, when do they close, the practicality of it. I personally have issues I want to raise about the regionalization vis-a-vis, because in your presentation, you're not talking about the cost. You're saying it's more expensive than this, but we have not seen that expensive nature. And you said you've spoken to universities and they are happy with the new plan. When we met with them early this year or late last year, when we were talking about decentralization, they were happy with it. And actually, they were so happy that, if I'm not mistaken, they were even willing to house us for free. And now we must go spend money on hiring buildings. But I think on this matter of regionalization versus decentralization, we're going to have an engagement on it. I want to read you just a small paragraph of 2.5 lines, and I want you to tell me, what do you think? The Minister of Higher Education and Training, Honorable Buti Manamela, on the 14th of July, released a statement. And this paragraph says, I don't know which paragraph, it's paragraph something, I think on the second page, yeah, but it says here, the ministry also wishes to clarify that the appointment of the administrator and the approval of technical advisors are distinct from statutory process relating to the determination of remuneration and allowances, which is governed separately by Section 17C of the NSFAS Act. What is your understanding? What do you think the minister is saying here, Administrator? The ministry also wishes, or must I send it to you? Is your phone on? I can send it to you. The ministry also wishes to clarify that the appointment of the administrator and the approval of technical advisors are distinct from statutory processes relating to the determination of remuneration and allowances, which is governed separately by Section 17C of the NSFAS Act.
So the minister is saying the appointment of the administrator, right, is distinct from the determination of remuneration, which is accurate. Right?
Yeah, it says the appointment of the administrator and the approval of technical advisors.
Yes, I'm saying and he goes further to state which section is talking about, which is accurate.
Yes.
Yes.
So here he is saying the determination of remuneration, it's something else. But the appointment of the administrator comes from 17A, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the remuneration. So being appointed does not mean he must be paid. That is 17C is the one that speaks about his remuneration. Do you agree?
As you have read it, yes.
Yes. And then it says, and technical advisors, which is 17B. So being appointed is distinct, is distinct from 17C. So here I'm trying to show you that being appointed, effecting 17B, which is the appointment of advisors or technical advisors, does not mean that they must be paid, because the remuneration and allowances is, for this two that he talks about, is governed by 17C. Do you at least agree with the minister here? Okay. Thank you very much. Honorable Christians.
Thank you, Chairperson. And I agree it's late. I don't know what justice you can still do at this point, Administrator. But I have a few questions on the four regional hubs or offices. So my first question is, will there still be a central NSFAS? And will that central NSFAS still be, as you said before, will it be in Gauteng?
Yes, so the head office will be in Gauteng, and then there will be a regional office that looks after a Gauteng, or call it Gauteng region, which will look after Mpumalanga, Northwest, the Greater Gauteng, and Limpopo.
Okay, and what functions do you think will be at that central NSFAS? What absolutely do you think is necessary there?
So the head office will really constitute of central shared services, in a sense, and this is still a conversation that is being held with staff, because there are certain staff that are busy doing work that may be in central, and it may be important that they probably can't be able to relocate, or they can relocate. So those conversations are happening. They are being negotiated. I do not want to make a pronouncement that suggests that I may have made a final decision on the matter. So let's take, for an example, we say legal services. It is a central function. It may be that is based in Johannesburg. Audit, HR, and say marketing, but it could be that you then have to agree that, given that the majority of the people that are in a particular function in the current space, may all of them be in Cape Town, you may then have to consider if that function can then be executed from a different location, if you do not have to have disparate people all over the show. So I think that it is something that is still being negotiated with the employees, and when we have concluded that, we can give a clearer answer.
Because, Prof, truly the way you explained it now, and the way I understand what you mean by the 4 regional offices and a central office still located in Gauteng, is that this still leaves NSFAS largely as having a central transactional bureaucracy. So in essence, nothing is changing. All you're doing is you're moving NSFAS from the Western Cape to Gauteng, and you're implementing 4 further regional offices, which completely defeats the purpose. Now, having said that, you know, you say that you want to place a regional office, for example, in the Free State, that will service a large province in kilometer in radius, like the Northern Cape. So my question to you is, how exactly will you service the students in Northern Cape, which is largely a rural province, hundreds of kilometers apart? I mean, you have a TVET college in Namakwaland, and then you have a TVET college in Kimberley, and that's almost 800 kilometers apart. Not even to say the distance then to the Free State. So, in my view, that's not making NSFAS accessible to anyone, much less students in the Free State, much less students in the Northern Cape. So what actual model then will service our students, particularly in the Northern Cape, if you are speaking about regional offices?
So, I think we need to look at it from a perspective of the final composition of that. Let's make an assumption that, for a moment, let's make an assumption that it's easier to service a TVET that is geographically located in what is called the Northern Cape, but distance-wise, it is much more closer to the Western Cape. It is not inconceivable to then strip that away from the Northern Cape necessarily as a province and service it from an office that is nearer it in Cape Town. Those are the nitty-gritties that we need to be able to look at, and the practicalities, because it's not going to help us to then say we want to resolve a situation where NSFAS is sitting in Cape Town, where it is thousands of kilometers away from the main university campuses and all that, and still create a scenario where you do have somebody that is going to have to travel thousands of kilometers. So we're going to have to look at those in its nitty-gritties and say, what is it that makes sense in this regard, and then make the decision closer to time or after the negotiations with staff to be able to resolve that particular issue.
Prof, I mean, in my view, have you and your team looked at maybe even a differentiated model? Because why would you want to put all institutions under the same sort of model? Especially one that will create a bottleneck, like, for example, the Northern Cape and the Free State. Why force institutions to work through the same model? For example, in the Western Cape, where institutions could manage their own finances. Have you looked at a model where you could allow them to manage their own finances centrally at the university, because they actually possess the mechanisms there? They have the student data, the students register there. They know exactly how many students, who needs accommodation, who needs transport, who needs funding. The disbursement of that money could probably be much easier. I mean, rather than have 4 regional offices, look at a model for each province perhaps. But I mean, that is possibly a discussion for another day. So, but essentially what I want to ask you is, what functions could institutions perform more cheaply and closer to students, in your view, now that you've been at NSFAS for a number of months?
Yeah. So I think it is probably a point of debate, Honorable Christian, in this regard. And I'm not closed off to suggestions, and I'm really open that we can have these conversations. I do take the chairperson's view that he says either late last year or early this year, I had conversations with universities. I say I had conversations with universities in June, July, and indeed they did indicate to me that they had offered to accommodate a staff member of NSFAS, give them an office where they can operate from. What institutions are then saying, no, but that is not going to work. It's a scenario where that person becomes a post office, right, with no authority at all, that they will still have to depend on somebody sitting at head office, that will only create more frustrations for the institution, because the same way that a student can be able to access via a laptop, that employee will be accessing information from us via a laptop. Whereas if the person is moving from a regional office where they have a support structure, they will best be supported to be able to assist the institution at a much more closer proximity relative to if it was sitting in Cape Town. So again, I say it is about 300 kilometers from Johannesburg, from Pretoria to University of Limpopo. It's much more easier that way than when the people from University of Limpopo had to be serviced by a person sitting in Cape Town, flying there or driving there. So that is it the Ethiopia? Possibly not, but it is a model worth looking at within the constraints of the current resources that we have. If we were expanding more resources, that would be a different story. Do I have the financial permutations as I sit here? No. I'm working from the basis that I'm assured that we can do this within the current constraints.
Okay, thanks, Prof. I just think at some other time we're going to have to look at universities handling their own money, because that's where the information lies, and we should be capacitating them to do that, because the students are not becoming less, they're becoming more. And if we allow universities to work with the data, which they already are, they know who are registering, etc. And Prof, you must remember, this is a model that has worked perfectly in the past, where institutions worked with the money. In fact, upon registering, the institution sent that data off to NSFAS or to the Department of Education prior years, and the Department of Education would then send that particular funding to the institutions, and they would then reconcile, and audits would be done every year to determine whether the money was dispersed properly. And it worked quite well. It also, the middleman was also not a problem, because there was no middleman, because the university was directly dispersing the funds. But again, it's something that we need to have a long and hard discussion about, Prof, because it's not working as it is now. And if we're merely moving Cape Town's head office to Gauteng, it completely defeats the purpose. That is not regionalization. That is merely moving a head office from one province to another. But I would like to come to consequence management, Prof, because you've spoken a lot about what you've done in the last 3 months, what you've observed at NSFAS, and I'm sure that by now you've seen quite a number of things, because I'm sure you know that in May, the ministerial briefing referred to a disclaimer audit. In fact, there were 9 material irregularities, you know that. So, and in your stabilization plan, I'm sure that, although we haven't seen it, my colleagues have requested that we actually see that, but I'm sure in your stabilization plan, you would expressly mention how you would go about working on the 9 irregular or material irregularities. So earlier, the committee minutes also record the concerns of repeated adverse audit outcomes, the failure to implement audit action plans, etc. Now, do you at this moment have a consequence management ledger as of today? And in fact, most importantly, I think, how many disciplinary matters have you heard so far?
So, Honorable Christian, if we were having an adverse audit opinion, it will be bad, but it wouldn't be worse than what it is. We have a disclaimer for the past 2 financial years. As I responded earlier, there's clearly processes that need to be followed, because if you do not adhere to processes, the chances of your actions being reviewed either by the CCMA or by a court are huge, and then you back to square one. So what we have presented is a stabilization plan in that it has many different streams. Out of those streams, as we identify the issues that comes out of them, we obviously going to have to take actions where identifiable people have been identified, inclusive of the investigations that the SIU is doing in the space. So when they do give us information to say, well, that particular employee you need to take consequence management on, we are gonna do that. I referred earlier to stuff around you know, these things that people have been traveling around who don't work for NSFAS. And at that point, we do need, I have the names, we do need to then establish an investigation why this particular member, whilst they don't work for NSFAS, and they either work for Parliament or they are a member of Parliament, or whatever the case is, why were they being transported? And then when we have that information, we'll then have to take the necessary step that needs to be taken, because Honorable Lonzi talks about criminality. In my view, that is criminality. If people, for some reason, have been transported all over the show and be paid for by NSFAS when they were not supposed to, it is tantamount to fraud. And we do need to follow those things up, and we do have the information.
So, Prof, to date, nothing has been recovered. No money has been recovered. None yet?
No, not from what I have done. I wouldn't want to claim things that I have not done. So the SIU has recovered 1.8 billion. That's what I can talk about. But from
is that the total value that has been implicated so far?
No, it will be worse than that. But I have to operate on the basis of real reports that the SIU gives me, and to that extent, when they are done, we will then be able to know what is it that we need to do.
Okay. Thanks, Chair.
No, thank you very much, Honorable. Who am I giving? Honorable Solza must come to you, Honorable Msaza. Msazana also, you see, these people of MK, he's also saying he's sick. Honorable Gubani wanted to speak early because he was sick. Now, I think it's a strategy, but I'm going to give Honorable Msazana before I come to you. Just because I don't want him to respond to what I've just said. Administrator, the last part on this one of mine, the spokesperson of National Treasury, Tebi Tsengiwe, was quoted on the Daily Maverick last week, Friday. And this is what he said. And I want you to give me a comment because I've been trying to get a proper response from you here. It's still not coming. He says, National Treasury is not aware of any exemption granted to NSFAS from applicable PFMA and SCM prescripts in relation to these appointments. They were talking about your 4 administrators being paid either through the human resource or through a company. He goes further and says, NSFAS would be best placed to account for the legal basis for the appointments and the processes followed. And this is what they say. Oh yeah, it's this one I want. Furthermore, the National Treasury confirmed that Finance Minister Enoch Godongwane has still not granted statutory written concurrence for the administrator or his advisors' compensation under Section 17, subsection C of the NSFAS Act, noting the request remains currently under consideration. Do you agree with the National Treasury's interpretation on section 17 subsection C that speaks about getting a concurrence for their administrators or his advisors compensation. But I think in the context here, they said and his advisors compensation. Do you agree with the National Treasury's interpretation of section 17 subsection C?
Chair, that is the statement from National Treasury, and I really don't have basis to dispute their assertion.
So you agree with them? That section 17, this is what they are saying. Section 17 subsection C means those who are appointed by 17A and 17B requires the Minister of Finance's approval for remuneration and allowances. That's what you agree with it.
I don't think there was ever a dispute, Chair.
Oh, okay. Now there's a huge dispute. You refused. You said
There was a dispute.
yes. You said your advisors did not require the approval of the Minister of Finance.
Yeah, Chair, you again.
I'll go in hindsight. I'll go to it now. Go to it where you said that and play it here. If you are saying I'm lying, we know what we've had. I can go on hindsight. If you say I'm lying, there's no problem. I'll give another member here. I'll open it here. Listen in the meantime, and then when we get to that point, play it live here before we leave, where you refuse that section 17C includes your advisors.
But Chair, I think you do need to be fair with what you say. I've consistently been very direct in what I said. I said in response to Honorable Lonzo's question relative to whether I received an approval by the Minister of Higher Education for salaries, I said to you, no. We then had a debate on section 17C. I said to you that section relates to a conversation between, or a discussion between the Minister and the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Higher Education. What you have done now is that you have read the statement by National Treasury and you have asked me, what do I say to that statement? I said to you, I cannot dispute what National Treasury is saying. So, I mean, I think I'm very clear in terms of what I have said, and if you want to play answered, you can play answered. But we have been sitting here the whole day, and it is fine.
Do you remember?
I didn't expressly say I actually disagree.
Do you
with
remember
17C.
me asking you if you guys were correct in paying these people, these advisors? You don't remember that part? Honorable Msazan.
Thanks, Chair. I'll just ask 4 questions. I think it's been a while since ngabona inyanga yami emakhaya, so I think I'm weak manje. I think as discussions get heated, other people are working overtime elsewhere, so I'm very weak now. I'll just ask 4 questions. No, I have one, just that I haven't went to Emakhaya to consult in a long time. So let me try and stay away from this question, because I think the more I ask it, the more I get sick. Let me deal with other questions, Administrator. You presented before us that you have defunded 6,514 students through your gap investigation, and you have refunded about 3,000 something. I didn't capture the full number, but I did capture the number that you said to have defunded, which is 6,514. You were reading somewhere there, it was not in our presentation. I want you to confirm that if I heard you correctly in terms of that outcome of the gap investigation.
You're correct.
So,
6,500
and 14. So currently, NSFAS at the beginning of the year to May, I think the last time, at least many of these students do actually text us. From February, these students would have registered, got their meal allowances, book allowances to April, I believe. And then NSFAS decides that 6,514 students, poor students coming from poor backgrounds, which we would determined that they are poor, you defund them. So all these students currently are sitting at home because obviously, because they were funded through NSFAS, it meant one way or the other, you knew that they could not afford accommodation, nor could they afford tuition. In fact, they can't afford to study. They're coming from poor backgrounds. By the way, I must put it to you that in many other instances, it would have been determined by this committee that at times their household income is either misinterpreted or whatever other reason. They would probably administratively, more reasons than one, would have been again excluded from funding. I don't think I want to go to each and every other reason why they could be excluded from funding, but there are a number of administrative issues that we come across. Amongst others, it would be the institution giving you wrong results or wrong academic standing or wrong interpretation of academic standing, and many other reasons. I can go on, but I don't want to go there. I just want you to confirm that you are confident that it was a good decision to take at that particular time, that 6,514 students must go back home and not study.
No, Honorable Susanna, I think with the information that we have, we could confidently say that those decisions were correct.
All right.
In respect of the 6,500.
Asibambe lapho, Administrator, because my time is limited. I told you I won't deal with these other matters. I want to stick here for now. So, did you consider that many of these students are returning students? Am I correct? Gap funding, returning students, yes. Did you consider that some of them would be left with a module or two modules and some would be actually even finishing this particular semester where you defunded them? First semester. Did you consider that when you defunded them?
That would have been part and parcel of the assessment that has been made, Honorable Member.
Yeah, I don't want, I want you to be precise on this point. Did you consider that some of those students would have been completing in this first semester, or how many, okay, let me just be precise, if someone knows, maybe so or knows. How many modules did you consider before deciding you were defunding these students? Was it 2 modules or 3 modules or 6 modules before completion? How many modules did you consider the students to be doing at the time?
No, I don't have that information with me.
Does anyone have that information? But that's almost straightforward. In university, they tell you that if you're left with one module, we can't academically exclude you. It's policy, so you should know it. Someone should know it.
No, but in the instance of GAP students, you were right to say they are returning, so they had previously been funded and failed. So hence then they were not funded and there was the gap in funding. We would have to check the reg to see how many modules were loaded for each of the students and then categorize that.
So in other words, which I fully agree and understand your question. What Honorable Msazana is asking, which you did not do from what you are saying, is that what they did, they just looked at the number of years. And they said, no, this one was entered the system in 2023. They did not check when they defunded them whether this child was funded in 2024 or not. They checked 2023, and if this child maybe got pregnant in October of 2023 and did not start in 2024, they counted it as a funding year. 2025 and 2026, if this child was enrolled in a 2-year diploma, in 2026 they would have defunded that child. Whereas that child, because did not start in 2023, they would have been on N+1 year. What you are asking them to have done is that before you take a decision, you should have looked at whether it is financially viable to defund this child. Because if you have spent 3 years on a person, they are left with 2 subjects, 2 courses, 2 modules to finish in that particular semester. And in April, you take a decision to defund them. In fact, we must charge you for costing the state money, because we have spent 400,000 on this child. They are supposed to finish in June. In April, you take a decision to defund them, and therefore they don't write. But it could have been cheaper to allow them, because you do some assessment. And this is what he's asking you. Did you do that assessment? And I know you did not do it, because you are just saying. If you did, by the way, there will be no 780 that are back that are in your. So that is, maybe it must not come as a question, because they won't answer you. They did not do it. It must come as a recommendation to say, if this thing happens again tomorrow, don't take a decision to defund without looking at individual cases on their own merits, which means if you are doing gap investigation now, it's August, and it says Tebogo should not have been funded this year, but you funded me for semester 1, you funded me now, and then you find out that I was only left with 2-year courses. It will be futile. It will be a waste of resources to then decide to cancel me. Rather, convert this money that you have given me into a loan, because I did not qualify for a bursary. Rather, convert it into a loan so that I owe that particular year, and the state is able to recover it, but also the state is able to claim that they funded this graduate. But if you stop somewhere in the middle of there, the state has wasted 300,000 on me, or 400,000 on me, and there's no qualification. So that's the point he wants but he wanted to ask it as a question, and I heard you from the beginning that you did not do it this way. So I'm sorry, Honorable Susan, but I know you are going to take long with them, and they were not going to answer you the way, and I'm not assuming. I know sometimes people say I'm the goalkeeper. I'm not assuming the responsibility of answering for them, but in the interest of time, I think, I'll give you DM. In the interest of time, maybe, because if you ask them, they will first explain, and then we'll then derail and move this. So I'll give you back DM.
I just thought I would use this opportunity on this, not to take up the time of the honourable member, but perhaps just to make a recommendation, Chair, because some of these issues are policy issues, as the honourable member has pointed out. As I understand it, NSFAS has an annual policy review process, and I think it will be important that the portfolio committee has its own input and spends time as part of that process, obviously taking into account that there are financial implications for whichever policy outcomes flow from that process. But in terms of, for example, what is the allowances, the value of the allowances, the N+ rule, or the way that the N+ rule is implemented, because there are a number of nuances around that. I do feel, Chair, that it is important that the portfolio committee also plays a serious role as part of the inputs into that process in the current year.
Thanks, Susan.
Yeah, Chair, maybe a statement as we request, or probably I'll remind yourself, Chair, to request through our committee secretary to request information regarding these students that the administrator says confidently, he's confident that it was the right decision to make, that 6,514 students get defunded. I put it to the administrator or the administration and the executive that there are many administrative issues that result, including policy issues, as the TM is rightfully saying, that results in students that are eligible for funding not to be funded. The COO sitting there knows that there are issues among many other issues that are brought to them, where Tibet students from a Teguni college were not migrated due to administrative issues of the college and NSFAS for at least 2 years. And majority of those students, except two, have been migrated and have gotten their monies after 2 years later because of administrative issues, not even policy issues, DM. And those two students are still legible, but now it's a back and forth between NSFAS officials and the college in terms of opening the registration or something to upload their current academic standing or academic registration. So part of this 6,514 that have been defunded, Chair, I can bet on it that if not half more would be financially excluded because of the systems and administrative issues as well as policy issues, as the DMN we are all agreeing here in this committee. So I don't take lightly, administrator, that you think it's okay for 6,514 poor students who are coming from poor backgrounds should go back home, whether this reason or the other, when many of the reasons might not be known to you or you might not be familiar with them, but we are, because we interact with these students on a day-in, day-out basis. So, Chair, we'll request information for each of these students for us to satisfy ourselves that 6,514, that's, even if 100 students were to come in this door now, poor students from poor background, I don't think any one of us here would be comfortable in saying to them, it's okay that you were defunded, your future is gone, go and sit at home. So I just wanted to make that point. It doesn't need a response. We'll request information, Administrator, because there's no way in which you can justify it. Maybe to us here, but I don't think the students that are watching, sitting at home, from this 6,514 would be happy to hear you say you think the decision was correct. Now, I want to deal with, by the way, Chair, I think the numbers that were given to us were very misleading because these numbers were not in the presentation. The administrator read it from somewhere there, unless, administrator, if I'm wrong. But this 6,514, you read it from your slides there, including the 3,000. It was not only the 780, Chair, it was 3,500 that were refunded, which means that 3,500 or 3,000 something were students that would have not had funding for 2 months. They went to exam without funding. Others would have been evicted. Others had many other issues that they had because they did not get their monies for 2 months. Whom, by the way, NSFAS will not consider that when you consider that they did not do well academically for this particular semester, when you defund them next year for not having done well, particularly in TVET colleges where you have stricter measures than that in universities when it comes to academic standing or academic performance when you refund the student. So I want to deal with my second to last question. I'll leave the other one, Chair, for you to summarize on the one of the illegal or irregular payment of advisors. I won't deal with that one. Administrator, you mentioned that in as far as the non-credited student accommodation, you put in conditions, including conditions of transport, including conditions of conducive teaching or learning environment within the non-accredited accommodation. I think you mentioned the third one amongst the conditions that were put in place to be imposed to them. How do you ensure that these conditions are imposed? Because I put it to you again that we interact with the students. They tell us that some of these Even accredited accommodation, by the way, do not provide transport in time. If they do not provide transport that is in line with the needs of their lecture times. So how do you enforce this, especially for non-accredited, before you even get to accredited? How do you enforce it?
No, thanks for the question. So it will not be us enforcing that. This request was being made by the university, CET specifically in this regard, because those are the ones that I acceded to a special dispensation to. I requested the university, in the form of the VC, to say they must ensure that wherever they are moving students, those conditions are then met in respect of the non-accredited accommodation. As much as those that, you then have to make assumption that the ones that we have accredited do then meet the minimum standards.
Yeah, so my question is, how do you enforce it? You see, making a recommendation is one thing, but ensuring that it is enforced is something else altogether. And you can't say, as NSFAS that does the payments, you then just leave it to the universities to enforce, but we still pay these people, both non-accredited and accredited. So what is your mechanism of ensuring that these conditions you've put in place as NSFAS that does the payments is enforced? By the way, I haven't gotten to the point that you said you're now paying directly to the service providers. So, which would still mean that you must then enforce these conditions that you've put in place.
As I say, Honorable Msizana, the university requested this special dispensation. I dispatched a team to go and look at those accommodations which were not accredited. And the team did come back having identified the spaces that they thought students shouldn't be in. And that was the basis on which I made those conditions, so that in the instance where students are traveling between 15 kilometers and whatever the case is, and the accommodation provider there doesn't provide a transport, those students shouldn't be accommodated there. More so that the university had said that we do have surplus beds in accredited space, so they would then have had to move those students to the other place. If I can't trust the university, Vice Chancellor, then we have a problem.
Let me maybe just one last question, Chair, because I think administrator is not responding to this one. Maybe the head of student accommodation can assist us. You accredit beds, which means you have the database of the beds that you've accredited. Now, I'm making reference to conditions that are imposed or recommendations made to non-accredited. Are you telling us, head of student accommodation, that you have the database of both non-accredited accommodation providers and accredited accommodation providers? Because the question relates to the administrator saying they must both provide they must both provide conducive spaces, safety and security obviously, as well as transport. And I put it to yourselves as NSFAS that some of these non-accredited accommodation providers do not provide transport, and if those that do either don't provide it according to the times of lectures, shortage or otherwise. So I want just to get that response, Chair, as I descend.
Non-accredited doesn't provide any of those things. So we don't have a list of non-accredited, because the student signs the lease directly with whoever they're staying with, whether there's a lease or whether there's no lease. We only have a list of the accredited.
Okay. No, it's just a follow-up which was not answered to. Apologize, Chair.
No, I'll come back to yourself. Honorable Souls.
Thank you, Chair. Administrator. please read the section that allows you to pay advisors without the approval of the Minister of Finance?
I don't have that.
Sorry, sir.
I don't have that.
Does it exist? Excuse me?
I will agree with you.
What are you agreeing with, Administrator?
You're saying it doesn't exist.
No, I'm asking you, does it exist? You say you don't have it, so I'm asking you, does it exist?
Well, not according to the sections that has been quoted here. It doesn't.
Your answer is it does not exist. So we agree, it's common cause that the Act does not allow you to pay advisors without the approval of the Minister of Finance.
We will agree.
So was the payments that was made to your advisors legal?
It will have to be determined how that payment is treated by the Auditor General of South Africa.
If there's no law that allows you to do it, and if you agree that you shouldn't have done it, the law doesn't allow you to do it, do you agree that makes it not legal?
I would have to take the matter on advisement, Honorable Member Souls.
I advise you and I put it to you. Those payments was illegal. Did you ask for advice? You said you asked for advice to finance in NSFAS. I want to know, did you ask the advice before signing the invoices of the two advisors that used their companies to receive payment? Did you ask for advice before you signed or after you signed?
I asked after the matter was raised and as to what has happened, because my understanding was that the advice that had been provided was that it was legitimately possible to do it that way, and that advice was consistent. It may have been wrong, but it was consistent with what would have happened in the past.
Let me rephrase. Did you sign first or after?
No, I signed first.
You first signed, then listen to advice. Would you now agree, if you didn't sign, would they have been paid?
They probably will not have been paid.
Not probably. You sounded very sure the entire session. Maintain the posture, Professor. If you did not sign, would they have been paid?
So they wouldn't have been paid.
They wouldn't have
my
been paid.
signature is an authorization.
So they have been illegally paid because you signed.
Again, I say I will have to take that matter under advisement, whether it is illegal or it has to be treated as irregular expenditure.
That
So
wasn't
I
the-
will have to take that under advisement. I wouldn't be so sure to agree on that it is illegal.
That wasn't a question, Professor. I was putting it to you. They were illegally paid because you signed. You want to convince us that 17C of the Act is not linked to 17B. The chair wanted us to read it. He read it to you. I want you to indulge me, Professor, and let's just read 17C quickly and show the connection. The minister, with the approval of the Minister of Finance, may determine the remuneration and allowances to be paid to the administrator, one, and any other person in terms of Section 17B. So the Act is telling us read 17C together with 17B. Do we agree? Please state for the record.
Yeah, no, we do agree.
We agree. Now, read together, based on your understanding, who determines the remuneration based on 17C? Who determines it? I read again. The minister, with the approval of the Minister of Finance, may determine the remuneration and allowances to be paid to the administrator and any other person in terms of Section 17B. Based on that section, who determines the remuneration and allowances? You or the minister with the approval of the Minister of Finance?
On that reading, it will be the minister.
On the reading of the Act, it would be?
It will be the minister.
Not you. Not you. Why do you determine the remuneration in this instance?
As I indicated, Honorable Souls, the advice that I had gotten was that that is what should be done. The reading could have been incorrect, but that's what happened. Hence, I'm saying we're going to have to take the matter on advisement, and whichever determination, then we'll have to go with that determination.
No. That's not what was said, Professor. You maintained you were authorized. I listened very carefully. I kept quiet the whole time. Wanted to make sure that I'm not missing anything. And trust me, I did not miss anything. Your position was that you were authorized. Now you see that you weren't. And furthermore, now that we know we must read 17C together with 17B, it shows us you were not even supposed to determine the remuneration. You are not the emperor of NSFAS. You have bosses. The Act says, ultimately, it's the Minister of Finance. You did your own thing. Do you see what I'm saying, Professor?
I see what you are saying, but it needs to be seen in the context of what the government gazette was saying, and now
Explain the context for me.
transversing this issue
Explain
together,
the,
and the other member.
explain the context for me.
Yeah.
Give me the context. Please,
Repeat yourself.
give me the context, please.
I'm saying the context is that the government gazette that places the administration in place says the administrator will appoint advisors, technical advisors, with the concurrence of the Minister of Higher Education.
The government gazette was quoting 17B. That's what you just quoted. Do you agree?
I would agree.
Yes. So you just quoted the Act, but you left out 17C. So if that's your context, again, You're incorrect. There's no other context. You did something illegal. In your presentation on the missing middle, you say out of 53,575 applications, 3,102 are eligible. Were they paid? The 3,102, were they paid?
Maybe before you move to that one, I want us to finish the point you're making now. Close it properly. The administrator says, no, the
I follow your lead, Chair.
no, I'll give you, I've just paused your time. The administrator says, the context might have been, it might have been confused by the, what do you call this thing? The Gazette. On paragraph 3 of the Gazette, speaks about the assistance to the administrator. And it says, and I'm amplifying your point, 3.1, in terms of section 17B of the Act, so the Gazette itself refers the minister to the Act. The administrator may, with the approval of the minister, appoint any person with suitable knowledge and experience to assist in the performance of the administrator's functions. Then it goes further to speak about what this knowledge, suitable knowledge, may talk about. It does not speak anything about determining the remuneration and allowance. And I think maybe the problem would have been when I think we're in this room, when we met the first time on the 6th of May. You guys may have been joking. You said, it was the other room.
Said it's the boss.
Yeah, when yeah, it's 12A. You guys might have created the problem because you said the administrator is the God. You said he's the God. He's everything. So maybe that's where the context, maybe the administrator wanted to bring, but not the Gazette. The Gazette number 3 at least, on the assistance to the administrator, it says nothing about the remuneration. In fact, it refers the administrator to the Act. So I wanted to close it because the issue was that the context is the Gazette would have created that impression. Yeah, you can continue.
Thank you, Chair. The 3,102 eligible in the missing middle, were they paid?
No, they will not have been paid yet, Honorable Souls, for the very simple reason that we only got the concurrence, policy concurrence from the minister on the 22nd of July. So that process will still be ongoing.
All right. So when it comes to students who needs money to study, you follow legislation. You did not pay students, 3,102 students who was eligible to receive money in the missing middle. Because you didn't have concurrence, you only got it mid-July, you did not pay them. When it comes to 4 people who advises you, you ignored the Act. and you pay them over 2 million rand. Now you see, Professor, I could look over everything. But what you show here is where your priorities lie. You were called to prioritize our children. You have proven here you prioritize 4 people, some of which is people you know, as you said earlier. And you neglect 3,102 of our children. That's unforgivable. It upsets me to the core. We are sitting here until midnight, not because we want to trick you or we want to corner you. We're sitting here because we are saying, for heaven's sake, our children are asking for help. We have tasked all of you to help them. They apply, they appeal, they cry to us. And what do? We would rather find ways to see to our friends than to see to 3,000 children. I'm going to close right there. You know what you remind me of, Prof, in this book? Your conduct is like what this book calls a wolf in sheepskin. This is not SARS. It's also not the MDDA. We don't fear wolves. Your knowledge just puff up. That book also says, before the fall comes pride. I hope you change your demeanor. I hope you see that there are other people that also knows. And I sincerely hope that you start prioritizing our children and not your friends. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Low.
No, thanks very much. Prof, I want to pose my first question because I would have already, the members could have put a sequence. Why do we have CFO and 2 advisors of finances? What is the purpose? Are there no duplication roles? And what are they doing?
No, there is no duplication of roles there, Chair. There is specific issues that have been raised around finances, and those issues needs to be resolved. It is quite possible that a number of these issues that has been raised were raised under the leadership of the CFO. So it is important that we are able to get people that will be able to assist me, at least, in terms of resolving some of those issues that has been raised by the Auditor General and bring them to finality at the very least.
Okay, are you saying, given the fact that the 2 advisors are there, and then there were issues that were raised, you've brought them because you couldn't raise issues with the CFO where there were issues raised, or what are you saying? I'm a bit lost. I've asked, why do we have 2 advisors of finance and the CFO? What becomes their role? Is it duplicate or what becomes their role? I'm asking this because you made submission that you have never engaged finance on any other issue. Now you are engaging the financial advisors. What therefore becomes the role of the CFO and the finance SCM positions?
No, there is no duplication of roles. The CFO has a specific role that he plays, right? I'm saying to you that the AG, his or her disclaimer note have raised specific issues that needs to be resolved. And we do need to accept that those issues have happened under the watch of the CFO in different forms in that regard. So I have a limited role to play in terms of time span, and I've been charged with ensuring that we're able to resolve some of those issues. So, and that's the reason why these two people are there. And they have specific responsibilities. The chair has said he's going to request for information on what those people do. You will see in the detail of the roles that they play, that they specifically do have very different roles that will be able to assist us in clearing the backlog or the issues that are happening there in finance.
Hold on. So you are saying the ages report of the disclaimer that raises issues on finance happened under the leadership of the current CFO. Did I hear you correctly?
Not all of them, not all of them, but at least to the extent of the 2025, 2026, yes, it will have.
The 2025, 2026. When was that audit concluded? Because I said at the beginning, the allegation is that you have not submitted the financial statement, so you have not been audited for 2025, 2026, or you have been audited.
So the audit is currently ongoing, right, for 2025, 26, because 2025, 26 starts on 1st of March to 28 February. But those issues are prevalent, and I have raised those very same issues in the report that I have submitted in terms of the stabilization plan.
Yeah, we don't have the plan, the stabilization plan. I want us to deal with the time frames properly. So the last audit you have was there 24, 25.
24, 25, yeah.
So this was 1 April 2024 until 31 March 2025.
Yeah.
And you are saying some of the issues that are raised in that report happened under the leadership of the current CFO.
Yes.
When was the current CFO appointed there?
Yeah, but I didn't say all. I said some.
No, I'm asking
Right.
you.
So
I've heard you.
So the current CFO would have been appointed at the end of 2024.
At the end of 2024.
Yes.
So would have been appointed in when? You don't know.
I'm sorry, Chair. I must correct what I believe is a mischaracterization going on here. Yeah, I was appointed in February 2025. Yeah,
No.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
think it's common cause that everybody in this room knows
Yeah,
that
hold
1
on.
month after I was appointed, I
No,
was asked to act
hold
for a period
on,
of 12 months.
I'm asking the question to the administrator. I have the information. That's why I'm asking specific questions, because I know administrator that can be true. I'm asking them, no, I know for a fact that the current CFO was appointed by the previous administrator in February of 2025. And at the end of that February 2025, less than a month after he was there, around that time, was then appointed by the board to act as a CEO, to close for a month before the end of the financial year. So when you say to us, some of the issues that happened there were under him, some of them, which ones were those?
But Chair, you know, there are a number of issues in finance that needs to be dealt with.
I agree.
Right? There are a number of issues.
I agree.
It may not necessarily be all of them that have been raised by the Auditor General, but those issues persist, right? And I really don't want to go down the route where I have to point to the CFO what some of the issues may be.
No, the question to Honorable Low's question, the answers to Honorable Low's question was that I brought in two because the AG's report points to 1, 2, 3, 4. Honorable Low's follow-up says, why two when there's a CFO? You yourself, you said, because some of these issues that AG raises happen under the leadership of the CFO. That's what you have said. And that's when I said, Honorable Law, hold on, I wanted to traverse this point a bit. That's why I was asking about the time periods from the beginning. Because I felt that is, one, a bit unfair, because I know for a fact that the CFO did not work a month as a CFO during that period. So hence I want you to clarify which matters or issues did you then conclude without a doubt that they happen under the leadership of the CFO? Because as much as I have a responsibility to protect you as our invitee, I have a responsibility to also defend everybody else in the room. And I think that was a bit unfair. It was not truthful. And I would want to plead with you to withdraw that response to Honorable Law. That, because you are going to force me to say, show me which ones are those. Because I know even for a fact that you don't have those facts. I can even ask the AG. AG, give me a list of all the negative findings that you gave that happened under this CFO when he was CFO for this period. It will be something that you won't prove. And I think it was, you must withdraw it because it was impugning on the dignity of the character of the CFO, and I don't think I'm comfortable sitting in a meeting where somebody else's dignity is trampled upon unjustly. Maybe you have a comment.
No, I do have a comment, Chair.
Yes.
And my comment is, and let me start where you ended. To the extent that I referred to the findings by AG, let me withdraw that, right? But I'm referring to issues that we have to be seized with in finance. And it may not necessarily be that an audit has been finalized, but some of these issues that have come from the past have recurred even under the leadership of the current finance CFO, right? So let's leave, and I withdraw the issue about the AGSA audit finding, but do insist that some of the issues that we have to look in respect of finance have happened under the CFO. It can be that we have to sit here and say that the CFO over the period from February 2025 to the time when an administration has been put in place bears no responsibility of anything that has happened there in the space of finance, right? You have been asking me about issues like consequence management, and I scattered around the issues, and I gave you an example here around issues of people being booked accommodation that aren't undeserving, and we're going to have to investigate that because Honorable Msizana here is one of them, right? It doesn't work for NSFAS. I mean, on what basis would he have been booked accommodation by NSFAS? But that was with a authorization by the current CFO, and in my determination, it is wrong, right? So I think it is important that we must be able to be truthful. As much as you want to hold me accountable, I think people must be able to as well understand that if they want to say that, look, this does look irregular, we must accept that if members of parliament that are not employees of NSFAS or were not doing work of NSFAS and they were booked hotel accommodation, then they must as well account for that because it couldn't have been regular. And that happened under the CFO. We have the list. We want to be able to look at that matter seriously. But there is sufficient, for me at least, to be able to say some of the things were not done correctly. It may not have been under an audit opinion of 25-26, and that I concede and withdraw as per your guidance.
Yeah, so no, I'll give you. You are implicated. What do you want to say here? Then the question of honorable law at the top of it is not responded. Within 1 month after arriving, you brought in 2 advisors. What motivated you to bring in 2 if the intention was not to target the office of the CFO? Because at the time you had no audit, you had no, it was just yourself there in 1 month, then you brought in the people. What then was the motivation? That was his question from the beginning, and then you brought in the AG, that's when I came in.
Yeah, I think it will be an incorrect characterization that we have brought in 2 experts as a target. There is a government gazette that expects of us as an administration to do something, and it has said we should look at a technical aspect, and that's the reason why we brought them. And in the information that you have requested, which is what each one of them do, you are gonna then see what exactly it is that they're gonna be doing. So the characterization that they're necessarily targeting the CFO, I think that is that's incorrect.
Are they expert also in PFMA?
I never indicated that they are an expert.
No,
in
I'm
PFMA.
asking. It's a question.
Well, I don't know if
Are they expert in general finance, finance in private sector, public? You just said they are financial experts. So I want to understand where is their expertise in finance?
It is an expertise in finance. I mean, you do have a CA in that team. You do have a person that is a specialist in corporate finance in that space. So yes.
So it is
they are experts.
I would be understandable, or I would be forgiven for expecting them to understand PFMA.
Yes, you will be forgiven to expect them to understand PFMA, yes.
And how would you respond to the point that they then did not see anything wrong in the PFMA with PFMA when they were paid or when they were advised that they can decide whether to be paid as individuals or as companies when the appointment that you gave them did not appoint them as companies?
Chair, I'm not so sure that I'm capable of being able to go into their mind right now and suggest that is what went through their mind, and I can only speculate whether it was an oversight on their part. I can only ask them, and I can provide you an answer whether they thought it was appropriate or it was.
If it's oversight, it's a very expensive oversight on behalf of.
It may well be.
Behalf of poor students who are unable. I'm trying to avoid having this honorable law.
No, thanks, Chair. I was mainly asking these questions because you will realize that the administrator could have submitted to say that the CFO could have said that he was not consulted vis-a-vis the working relations in terms of in parallel. And in the submission after the withdrawal of the administrator, I'm worried that it might be that he has created a parallel of an office of so the way advisors are going to look onto the work of the CFO as like they're investigating, because he's saying he has brought them back based on allegations and any rectification in an institution. If you feel that there were wrongdoings, you put them down, you follow proper procedure, you don't investigate. And I don't understand how will he investigate the one of the CFO when he couldn't investigate the one of paying people who are individuals as that. But I'll pass that one, and then I'll request that I get it in writing with regard to the roles of the advisors. And in addition to that, they should also provide the qualifications of those advisors individually, so they must be in writing, Chairperson, so that we could be able to deal with. So I would move to another question to check. What becomes your process when you travel? Who approves, and what is the process to approve your traveling and substances, because you are not yet remunerated by the entity? You are still waiting for the minister to finance you. What is the procedure when you are traveling? What happens therefore?
So my travel gets approved in the organization in the manner that the normal travel of any other person would be approved. I don't approve my own travel. So that will be approved by the manager in my office.
Okay. CFO, who's paying the travel of the administrator while he's still waiting for remuneration, and where do you derive the line item of the budget to pay for the particular travel, because the administrator will not have the package? How does it travel?
Yeah, thanks, Honorable Law. The travel is approved within the administrator's office, as Prof has indicated. The invoices get submitted and paid to finance, so it's paid out of the NSFAS account, yeah.
Which line item, in which budget item? Because he does not have a remuneration package. Your travel and assistance goes together with your remuneration package. So I'm on to check, where are you paying it from? Where does it derive it from? Because the moment you take it where he's not remunerated, you should tell us where, the line item. Where do you pay it from? Because each and every employee or individual will have a package that therefore determines this package to unfold. I wanted to understand, do you get it from another line item of students when you have removed them, or where?
Yeah, I mean, there is a budget structure in the administrator's office. I think when the minister was here earlier, we did discuss the budget structure that is associated with the administrator's office. So there have been allocations made for the functionality of that office. Yeah.
Okay. Chair, I'm asking this. I would have told you that when you speak of remuneration and allowances, you're speaking of a package of individuals that goes hand in glove. So that tomorrow when you conclude a settlement with individuals, you are able to calculate accordingly as per the agreement. So I was posing it in the directive to say it means we're going to go to section 55 in terms of the PFMA, in terms of the law, because it will be fruitless and wasteful expenditure, because there's no yet authority of concurrence from the Minister of Finance to authorize any other movement. And when you look at his response, the Minister of Finance, when he responded back to NSFAS, it was very clear, coherent, and to say normal standard of employees or normal standard will follow, as per what he has responded to when NSFAS was speaking about the PFMA. That's why I was posing my question. So I'll also request it in writing with regard to that, CFO. I want to move now. How many missing medical loans have been dispersed since 2026? I'm raising this because in the last committees, there was a commitment that the medical missile loans will be dispersed before this particular time. I'm worried that we're heading to the new academic year. Administrator?
So there were no disbursements because of the lack of policy concurrence at the point. So that would then flow since the policy concurrence has been given.
As per your stabilization plan, what is in your plan? You should have the medical missing. What is part of your plan? What is your plan? Because of, remember, you took over to be able to enhance and strengthen. What becomes your plan of stabilization? What is your view on the middle class, the middle missing, because we should have a plan with that, because it's quite critical and enormous.
I think let's come back to you on that issue.
You saying you're going to come back to me?
Yes.
Okay, you are packing it. No problem. No problem. We can pack it for that. And then I would want to pose again, why were the bursary guidelines only signed off in May and the loan guidelines in August? Wampaka gape.
So I think the department could answer that better than I could.
Department, it's almost 12 a.m.
Sorry?
I'm saying the department must assist us. Why?
There was a delay in providing concurrence on the loan guidelines. That shouldn't, I don't think that's the reason why there's a delay in administering the loans, because the existing guidelines were in place. The existing and were they only improved in May, colleagues? The guidelines for the bursaries?
Yeah, they were signed off in May
Yeah,
and guidelines in August.
yeah.
Khoreng.
I'm afraid I'll have to get back to you on that too.
I've not been, okay, thanks. Chair, we had a portfolio committee and we are the ones who could have proactively suggested that we should have each and every individual represented in each and every institution of higher learning. And I, for one, have got a problem with the clustering of Western Cape, Northern Cape, and Free State. It's not going to work. It has been happening during apartheid, now it's happening again with us, and we're suffering the big blow as Northern Cape. First and foremost, administrator, the historical debts where there are people in Northern Cape who are not yet paid and students have suffered a big blow, where students have went back home from villages because people took their things, they couldn't proceed to study. And I heard you were saying there were no historical debts of such, and can you please look onto that if of the historical debts with regard to the people in Northern Cape. And I, for one, Chair, would want to propose that go look onto the model. You can't want to go list a offices of regions while Institute of Higher Learning are offering you options to engage as per the issues. And I'm saying this because there's a gap in between handover where you needed to sit down and get to see what were the commitments that were taken prior to you taking office and how do you therefore align them properly. But already I've seen a problem where there's a parallel where the who's the current CFO and the acting CEO, already I see a wall in between the administrator and that office with regard to the issues that are emanating. Because if you would have seated down, dealt with issues of handover and allowed yourselves to engage on issues of importance, I don't think we would have been in a repetitive mood where we are at now. At this particular opportunity in this portfolio committee, we discussed the state of readiness for next year for NSFAS, and we are dealing with all of the issues. We don't go back and deal with all of these issues. So in my submission, Chair, because I'm saying all of this because of what becomes our problem is that the universities have been owed 10 billion rand, and already NSFAS has reported that they are in a shortfall. And I want to know to NSFAS, when did you know about it, and what therefore becomes the mitigating factors from yourself with regard to the shortfall that NSFAS is facing. From there, Chairman, thank you. I'll then submit my questions ready.
Thanks, Honorable Law. The issue of the funding shortfall has developed since 2020. So this is not a new matter. It's just growing over the years because of the fact that NSFAS as an implementing agency does need to implement the policies of government. I do know that the conversations between ourselves and the department that will lead into conversations with a National Treasury are on the go to try and secure some solution on the matters. So that's to that extent, that's how far I can take the matter.
Okay, thank you. So, Siv, you said your travel is managed through the manager in your office, which is Sevuile, am I correct?
You are correct.
There was an article, maybe you can rebut it, that there was a week where you had double booked. How's that possible? At West Inn and the Pepper Club. See if you can just come in. How was that possible?
Thanks, Chair. So I don't do the booking, I approve the booking. So there's a booker who did the booking at Pepper Club and then subsequently did it at the Western. I called to say it must be cancelled, the initial one. My understanding was that it was cancelled. So I don't get to see, when she does the cancellation, I don't get to see it unless I go into the system to go and check. So she cancelled, that was my understanding, the Pepper Club.
So, the explanation NSFAS gave on the article is a bit different. But I want to understand if I hear you correct. So you're saying you had initially booked Pepper Club for that period. And then what made you change to the West End? What would have been the motivation?
So we then found out that the Pepper Club had the carpets in the room. So for that reason, we then initiated the change.
Okay, so the room that you had found at Pepper Club had carpets. So this would have been the first time that the administrator was booked there.
At the Pepper Club,
Yes.
it would have been the first time he would have been staying there under NSFAS, yes, Chair. I don't know if it was the first time booked, but it would have been. I think there was a previous booking, but then he ended up not coming to Cape Town, if I remember correctly. So this would have been the first time he would have actually gone to stay.
And when you had booked there, you didn't know that there were carpets.
I didn't know, Chair. I personally didn't know.
Okay. And what happened to this booking? Since it was not cancelled, and then you had approved another one. So did we incur costs on this one during that period?
That is what then happened, Chair. So it was booked, I think these were the dates of 25 to 28 May. That was the booking. And then when the day administrator was flying to Cape Town, we then found out, so I asked the booker to change. And then I think the hotel was full, the Pepper Club, and also didn't have rooms that had something not carpet. So she looked and then she found the Western and then was going to cancel. So my understanding was the Pepper Club was cancelled, therefore the other booking came through. I did not know that there was an issue with the cancellation until we got the media query.
What consequence management has been meted on this one, administrator? Because the institution or the state doesn't cut costs. This is fruitless. This is fruitless expenditure. Double booked to hotels because somebody did not cancel. What consequence management have we done here?
So, as I indicated in the response to the journalist, that situation was very regrettable in that even after the situation had arisen, or I had come to know that there was a booking at the Pepper Club, I continued to be assured that no, that booking was cancelled, so there is no double booking. So I would have said so myself on account of that assurances. And when I finally discovered out of the invoices that were then published. I did take consequence management on Sivu as the manager in my office. I gave a warning for that because I thought that it is something that could have been handled differently. If I was communicated to say, listen, this is the only place that we are found, I would have gone and stayed there, the same way that I've gone and stayed at the Cape Sand where there is carpets. So I did give Sivu a warning out of that particular situation.
And when did this warning, when was it sent?
No, it was a verbal warning,
It was a verbal warning.
yes.
Okay, okay. Yeah, you know, I've not slept at the paper club. Me, I can't afford today. But I've visited somebody there. And maybe it's the room that he was staying in. But the room there where we went, there were no carpets. I'm told you are saying the reason why you have been moved was because the room had carpets. The one that I saw there had no carpets. I'm not saying the story is not right, but we might need to, in our letter, and I'll just note it, to NSFAS, to give us the booking details. With the booking details, we'll write to the paper club ourselves for them to give us confirmation of this information because, like I said, I've been there and I've not seen carpets. But if they are there, maybe that room had carpets, and I hope that is the case. In your response, I'm going to give you Honorable Lunz. In your response to why you prioritized allowances instead of paying universities, you said you are managing a crisis from happening. The reality is there are universities who have communicated to NSFAS, indicated that they are unable to reach their financial obligations if they will not be paid, at least by latest today, it's after 1, it's after 12. Because they must pay salaries by Friday. They end on the 15th. Now the 15th falls on a Saturday. So it means they must pay salaries on Friday. And they're unable to pay salaries on Friday. So it means what you are saying you want to prevent from a student perspective, it's going to happen. But it will happen from workers of these institutions. So either way, there is a crisis. What is does DHEAD have your tranche or tranches? Where is this money? Because when we voted for funds now, I can't remember, was it 50, 51 billion? It could not have been finished in this financial year. That would have started on the 1st of April. So where is this money, and how can we make sure that when we leave here, we don't leave this meeting thinking everything is fine, and on Monday we wake up to strikes in 10 universities that are paying their employees on the 15th, or that were supposed to pay their employees on the 15th, and they will not have been paid because NSFAS has not paid what they're supposed to have paid to yourself. I've seen a number of letters. I've seen, you made an example about WUS. You have seen their letter to yourself. I've seen the letter of UNISA to yourself. It's a lot of money that we owe, hundreds of millions of money to these institutions. And you are saying you only have about 4 billion or so in your account, which is a scary part. It means you might be postponing a pain that we are ultimately going to get. If we don't get it this Friday, We might get it next week, Friday, or we might get it month end. But reality is that this pain is inevitable. Now, I want to understand where is the problem? For where can this, is Tandi withholding the funds that are supposed to come to, I'm making an example, Tandi, to NSFAS from the department? Where is the problem? What is the issue here, Prof?
So even if you were to disperse the 50 billion that was voted for, you would still have a shortfall. So the situation will still remain, Chair. So I'm pretty aware that there are universities like WUSU, and I have attempted to make sure that at least I pay them about 64 million, which was on hold. Like Limpopo, even though Limpopo we didn't owe them, we couldn't pay all of it, but their appeal was just pay us something, and I had, thought that 30 million would be able to assist, but that is not the sum total. There are universities which their amounts are such so big. So UNISA will talk about 405 million. Stellenbosch, I think we owe them close to about 700 million. So you could go into all these institutions, but the reality of the situation is there is a policy that is prevailing. The entity doesn't have the money. The conversations that the department is leading with Treasury will have to come to the party in this regard. So really deep conversations has to be engaged in to determine what needs to be done. It is really not in the hands of NSFAS. We can only deal with what we have. As I say, I have 4.5 billion that earns to disburse at the end of this month, while waiting for the tranche, for the next tranche. I can't even say, well, just bring forward the tranche to pay, because even if they did, I would still be in the red with, it won't be 15 billion, essentially. It won't be able to cover that 15 billion. So this gap will continue to grow as we go, and hence my presentation was to say we will need to find an assistant somehow to ensure that 2026 academic year does not impact on 2027. So if we don't get the money, 2027 will be impacted because we won't have the money to be able to fund 2027.
Yeah, my question was not policy related. I'm asking now. So you're saying you've got 4.5 billion. And this is on the money that was on the 26-27 financial year. You are saying for 2026-27 financial year ends on the 31st of March 2027. The academic year 2026 ends in October 2026. I'm asking a specific question. I don't know whether it was Honorable Khabo. You see this thing of wanting to lecture us and not answering what, you know, when we ask a question, we know what we're asking. We make sense, we know we make sense to what we're asking. But because we've got this issue of wanting to lecture us and then end up not answering the question. I'm repeating my questions, and I hope Prof will hear the question. This year, at the beginning of the year, we paid upfront 6 point something billion. Was it 6.3? How much was it to universities? Was it 6.3 or something? We paid. This was not the money of 2026-2027 financial year. I hope you understand that part. But it was the money of the 2025-2026 financial year. Because the financial year 2025-2026 will not have ended. It ended in March. Now, this year, 2026, this financial year, we've just voted for the budget. We're told it's 50 billion. For the 2026-2027 financial year. Out of that 50 billion, Tandi, how much have we sent to NSFAS?
Chair, there's a tranche schedule, so of that 50 billion, that is the budget for this financial year, an amount of 10.1 billion was paid over to NSFAS in April, 9.5 in June, and 10.8 in August. The next payment is due on the 1st of October. Chair, if I could just come in here. It is a serious situation. I think the minister talked about it this morning quite clearly, that we do have a gap between the demand.
No, we understand the issue of it.
No, I know you do, but
No, the minister spoke about it, so I don't understand what you want to. We understood it there.
so
The
what
issue
I
of the
would like to
police-
do is to tell you what we're doing about it,
No,
if
the,
possible.
No, the
'Cause
minister
then-
spoke about it. The
Okay.
issue of a policy that you are trying to
I'm-
deal with.
I'm talking about
from,
both the policy issue.
Dandy, please.
Okay.
Please. So at the end of this month, you are saying there's nothing, because I can tell you we're going to have strikes by workers on Monday who will not be paid. You are saying to me, from a money point of view, there is nothing that the department can do except the tranche payment that is expected in October.
Chair, if you would allow me, that I'm not saying there's nothing the department can do. It's in a matter of extreme urgency that we must ensure that universities receive some of their tuition fee payments. So one of the things that are under consideration is whether or not, and this is information that we are in discussion with NSFAS about, is whether or not, given the situation, we do need to go to National Treasury and request an earlier drawdown on some of the later tranches, which is something that we could feasibly do. That is something that we're in discussion about. It's highly unprecedented, but it's something that we could do. In terms of the budget, we have to go back to cabinet, and that is a process that we are also involved with at the moment, working with National Treasury and the DPME.
So you guys did not know that there might be this crisis on Friday this week, because you guys are still in conversations. So it came as a
We
surprise.
did know that it was a crisis, and we had a discussion on Friday, and
Last
I
week.
got the information about the money in the NSFAS bank account on Friday.
Last week.
Yes.
So NSFAS only notified you last week, Friday.
The detail of the amount
you
of
knew
funding
before
was only
Friday last
available
week.
to me on Friday.
So
Yeah.
the department knew before Friday last week that there is a crisis, but you just did not know the extent of it.
That's partly true, yes, yeah.
What is not
But-
true there?
Well, did not know what the situation of the NSFAS bank account was, no.
But that's what I've said.
Yeah.
So what is not true there? You said it's partly true. What is partly not true?
That the universities have been raising for some time concerns about the lack of payment on
No, I've
tuition
never
fees.
said so. I've never said about university raising.
So all I'm trying to be honest with you, Chair, to say is that I have been aware for a short while that the
Yes.
universities are concerned about the lack of payment
Yes,
on
I've
tuition
never raised
fees.
that. I've not raised that yet.
Okay.
So what is
I'm just
partly
trying to
not
be
true?
totally
No,
honest with you.
No, what is not true? You said what I've said is partly true. So it means it's partly untrue. I'm asking what is not true about what I've said.
So I'm trying to say that I'm aware that there's a problem before Friday. It's only on Friday that I knew the situation of the bank account.
Yeah, you see, this is a problem I have. So between NSFAS and the department, you knew all along that you have not paid university tuition fees for 4 months. You knew. So it was not a secret that the last payment to universities was in April or something like that, end of April, I'm not too sure. You knew. If it's not the department, NSFAS would know. Between the two of you, you knew. Now, only when universities raised an issue about not being able to breathe, them being under pressure, it is only then that you guys now wants to create, you know, when you go to court, I did speak about 612, the rule 612 in the courts, high courts, but it's the one of agents. When you, in a case like this, if I was opposing you, I was going to say, your case is self-created agency. You are creating, National Treasury will highly likely tell you the same day, that you can't act surprised as if you had no access to your bank accounts. You knew that you are not paying. You kept this thing to yourself. I can tell you now, if National Treasury accede there, I'm going to do a bribe. Because this thing is self-created. And it's this kind of incompetence that causes problems. We're likely going to have a big problem where people can't pay their debit orders on Monday. It's reality. And somebody here would be told, we've given somebody a verbal, because it can be proven, a verbal warning. We can't see it. No, there's just a culture that we're creating of impunity. We're doing just as we please. We don't care for consequences. This one actually, heads should be rolling, because this thing has got a serious potential of causing serious instability in the system. Some of the workers of these universities might not be able to pay for transport for their children to go to school. We don't practicalize our actions. Malume driving bana Monday might refuse to take a child of somebody who works at the university because they're not paid. Now we're too relaxed, we're chilled. We're chilled. Sit with information. We knew, because projections should be able to, I'm not an accountant. I can't even claim I know accounting. But I can budget. I know how to budget. I know that this next 2 weeks I must fly to Cape Town. I must have petrol to drive from home to. I don't want to go to last minute. I'm supposed to go to the airport. And then I'm saying, I don't have money for transport or for Uber there. That's poor planning on my part. And this is how you guys are handling state resources at the expense of millions of our people. These universities, Dr. Christians, might not be able to pay for electricity. There's a mayor there in Tshwane, she's trigger happy. If you don't pay for 2 days, she switches. The whole university, TUT, Prof. Mateb, might not even have electricity tomorrow or Monday. And we're relaxed. This thing, and I was deliberate that I've had the minister in the morning on the policy challenges that we have, and we have agreed with him. So don't take us to the policy problem. Want to deal with the problem in front of us. Are we able to make sure that universities that pay, that are expected to pay on Friday tomorrow, will be able to meet their financial? And seated here between NSFAS and the department, you have just confirmed to us that there's no plan. So those universities, if they are listening, they must just go and get overdrafts to avoid a big strike from employees. And somebody must be held accountable. Because you can't, it's not possible, Honorable Lons.
No, thanks, Chair. I'm going to try my best to be very quick because it is quite late, 1:10 a.m. I just want to, and maybe I'll just ask these questions at once, and hopefully the guys who are in charge of student accommodation can help with this information. Because you see, Prof, another thing that is going to cause a huge student protest nationally is this issue of the top-up. If you check now, CPUT is burning. The same is going to happen in other parts of the country. And the reason why this issue of a top-up is an issue is because of the pressures at the university levels. Universities are starting to say, even if you are an NSFAS student, if you have got debt as a result of NSFAS not being able to pay that top-up, let's say it was 500, but then obviously it accumulates, those students are not going to be able to register in the following year. And then those who need to graduate are not going to be able to graduate. Now, what we want to demonstrate here, Prof, is that the continued functioning of these 4 middlemen companies. I heard you did say that NSFAS has now brought this in-house, but the fact of the matter is that they are still performing some functions on behalf of NSFAS. And there is money that is leaking out of the system as a result of these 4 companies. And what I need the accommodation guys to demonstrate to us very quickly tonight or this morning is that if we were to cut out these leakages, we'll actually find that there's a lot more money in the system that we can use not only to close these other funding gaps, but even to fund more students at the NSFAS. So my questions are simple. The fact is, typically on private accommodation, how much does NSFAS spend annually? How much nominally, based on the percentage that you have to give to these 4 middlemen companies, how much are we giving to them on an annual basis? And then how much have we paid them to date? And it is those numbers that are going to demonstrate to us that a lot of the problems that we're experiencing are actually man-made. And if NSFAS, if the administrator the prof is to attempt to win us back, Chair, I think is to be extremely decisive on this issue of the so-called middlemen companies. Minister of Finance has come out to say he doesn't understand what is their role, because NSFAS itself is an intermediary. So why do you have an intermediary of an intermediary? So I just wanted the student accommodation people to just clarify those aspects to us. How much have we paid these guys to date? Number 2, how much do we project to spend on private student accommodation that is still being run by the 4 middlemen companies annually? And then number 3, how much is going to go to these guys based on the percentage that NSFAS is spending on them? I just wanted that breakdown, because there was some people were saying, no, these people are no longer getting money, they are no longer there, and I think we need to debunk those myths. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, so to answer your question, the solution partners get 4% of the amount that's released to accommodation providers, the successful payments. A file can be sent for payment, and not all the payments are successful, so they will only be paid 4% on the amount that's successfully paid out. At a high level, for 2024, paid out to solution partners was 146 million. For 2025, 267 million. And to date, for 2026, it's 146 million that has been paid to the 4 solution partners across TVETs and universities for the disbursement of accommodation. So prior to 2026, they were responsible for directly paying accommodation providers, but from 2026 onwards, that function has been brought in-house. But for the use of their system and the other functions that they perform, they are still paid their 4%.
And maybe if you were to explain to South Africans as if they are 1-year-olds, what are they doing, these guys? Like what, for these millions, 267, 100 and what million, if you were to explain to an ordinary person that, what is the job of this person? How would you simplify it?
So if you're a student and you're looking for a place to stay and accredited accommodation, you'd log on to the Solution Partners portal for the province that you stay in, and you'll go on and apply for a residence to stay in based on the pictures that you see and whichever one is close to your campus of study. And if you are a person who wants to be an accommodation provider, then you would log on to the same portal to go and register yourself and upload your property so that you can become an accredited accommodation provider.
Okay, so the providers, when they upload their accommodation, they don't pay.
They don't pay when they upload, but they would pay at the end of that process because they'd need to be accredited by one of the accreditation agents. So based on the number of bids that they're applying for, they would then make a payment for an accreditor to come out and assess their property.
So this accreditation, they pay for it every month.
No, they pay for it once off.
And how much is it?
It's based on the number of bids.
How much is it per bed?
I think it's about 100, and there's a difference. If it's 0 to 10 bids, it's a certain amount, 10 to 50, and then I think if it's over 100, there's different amounts.
How many beds are there in that system?
There's 367,000 bids across the 4 solution partners for universities and TVETs.
So it's 300 and something times 100 rands.
At an average, yes.
So there are those who are above 100 rands.
No, the maximum amount is 100 rand, but they can work on an average of 100 at your 367,000 bids.
So maybe it's about 3.67 billion
to date.
That should be paid by the provider, or should have been paid for by the provider once off.
Yes, that's correct.
And because it's 100 rand. And then the students will then use that system for free.
Well, the student will log on to the Solution Partners portal. The payment of the accreditation of the bids and the usage of the portal is there's 2 different contracts. So from your 367,000 bids that were accredited at 100 rand, there's still payments made to accreditation agents and Solution Partner.
Yeah, so you see, members, I want us, you see, maybe we must bring this matter back and bring the solution partners to come with NSFAS. And NSFAS, I want you to go now. Go look at the advert. Because we had asked in the 6th Parliament, NSFAS must go challenge this thing in court. Because the contracting of this thing was irregular, was illegal, was criminal. You contracted people on something that was not advertised. You said you want a marketplace. Like I've told you, I've been in this committee for a while. And Yusuf, when you left, I came in. So this is how long I've been here. You advertised for a marketplace. Build me something, and it will be self-sufficient. This is how it was sold even here in Parliament. And it will be at no cost to NSFAS. That's what it was said. At no cost to NSFAS. Right? These people will build it, and every person who wants off, who brings in their thing, their bets, they put it on the system. Those are the only people who pay. Right? Then there was another group, 80-something people, many of them very unethical, because they went and accredited Zozo, Kore, nothing. Those ones I'm still angry at them, those unethical people. I was called by a group of white Afrikaner accommodation providers in Vanabel Park, who told me that this one and this one and this one, they are scheming us money. They say they are working with this person from NSFAS. I reported them to NSFAS, and I told them, these ones must be arrested. So those ones, very unethical. Right? So the people who are accrediting were different. I'm not thumbsucking, I'm telling you. We brought NSFAS in the committee, and I told them that these ones, they are going to go to jail, and as they must, because they are creating a problem. Right? When contracting came of this marketplace arrangement, you then include something that was not advertised. You say, you are actually going to administer payments to these people. We are going to pay you, and this is where the 5% come in. It was not there on the original advert. And that's why I want you to go, when we come and deal with this matter, we deal with it once and for all. Because we ask that you go to court to nullify that contract, SLA that you signed, of 5%, you will get, so they will collect invoices. Even me, I can do it most. They go collect invoices, they bring invoices to you, you pay me, I take 5%, I give to them, I leave 1% for you. Such an easy money. If you wanted to do that, you should have advertised it like that. You don't. You advertise something, you say marketplace, hosting system. And then when you contract people to disperse money. Some of these people, they still have accommodation. There's a lady in KZ, and I remember she called me crying, lost her 86 or 82 beds because a person was not paying them. Was not paying them. When we inquired with NSFAS, NSFAS said, this person we've been paying. So these people, they take this money, they, for interest sake, they put it somewhere, want to be greedy. For money they are not really working for. So when Honorable Lonzi was saying, make it make sense, what is it that we are paying for? We're asking you this question, we know. The reason we call them middlemen is because they collect invoices, they submit on one part. Then there's the hosting issue. And this hosting issue has got the grading, as you are saying, of grade A, grade B, grade C, whatever the case may be, where some of the institutions like CPUT refuse to play on it, refuse to participate in this thing, because including them, you know, we must enter these people. Gori, what told, you spoke about the top-ups. It's a big problem. We've called the colloquium on the 28th. What we'll be doing there is what NSFAS should have done long time. We've even brought the competition commission in that meeting. Because you spoke about it again earlier, that maybe the estate life in Cape Town is too expensive. I refuse. I refuse. In 2023, they would have had, yeah, what is that thing? Observatory. UCT would have been charging our people 7,000, same street. And CPUT was charging about 3,000 something. But because we're complaining about this one, they do price collusion. These ones, the following year, they go up so high, CPUT. So you can tell this thing is, it does not, it's not right. So I've called that meeting to deal with what we believe is price fixing, but also to address, if we say NSFAS, by the way, there was a point you spoke about us paying for everybody to stay and rest. For me, that's not even a problem. The problem is unregulated fees of these residences. In some instances, we pay, or these people want us to pay 9,000 per bed. And in some instances, same town, we pay 4,000. So that is another matter that we must deal with. You, Okay.
Oh, thanks, Chair. So I wanted to perhaps request the intervention of the administrator and the head of student accommodation. NSFAS had admitted that most of these unethical people that you are referring to, Chair, would have accredited accommodation that is not in line with the norms and standards of NSFAS, yet the leases remain binding. So we've had many instances where students want to then cancel these leases, but they can't. So they're stuck in accommodation that is equally not in line with the norms and standards, but because of the obligation, they can't then cut these leases. So we'd want a system that, at least in the meantime, is flexible for students to be able to either be able to terminate and get to another NSFAS accredited accommodation, or however they could be assisted, because as things stand, the system is very rigid.
Yeah, it will be an excuse in law that you can't get out of a lease that was signed under the pretext that it satisfies the norms and standards. And if it does not, the argument is that you can't get out. It's a fallacy. It's our people from NSFAS who don't want to cancel those things. In fact, if you come across those ones, let's write them down. Let's take them to the administrator, because our kids can't be forced to stay in unconducive or non-conducive accommodation on the basis that we have signed leases. We have signed leases with them on the basis that they meet the minimum norms and standards. They've got security, they've got Wi-Fi, warm water, they've got a table, electricity. If those things are not there, you can't tell me that lease is binding. It's binding for who? Because we've signed a lease that satisfies these things. If those things are no longer there, then you take out, it's like a marriage and divorce. I marry you for this. If all of a sudden you no longer satisfy what we have agreed on, divorce. So there's no, if in law, there's no such. And that is why, by the way, the practical example, it was that thing of Oval at UKZN. The problem with that is that there were people internally at UKZN who signed a contract that was hurting the university beyond, because the university is now supposed to pay for something they did not buy. So those issues, I don't want them to answer. Those issues, we must write them down those names, we'll give it to them to go remove. Students must also not, because students are also naughty. They sign a lease of accredited that pays 4.5 or 5.2. Then they want to move to unaccredited, still want to be paid 5.2. Just move from this one and don't go pay 2,000 so that they take the rest. So we must also warn them that is fraud. You can't, that will be defraud in NSFAS. And Lebanon will treat them like criminals once they start behaving like criminals. Honorable Lonzi,
No,
nothing
Chair,
short.
no, I accept your ruling, Chair, that because of time we can deal with this matter another day. I just wanted us to differentiate between a committee meeting where we're going to call all these middlemen together with NSFAS and the colloquium, because unless I'm misunderstanding it, but a colloquium doesn't sound like a parliamentary sitting. It's almost
it
like
is.
an imbizo. So people can say whatever there, you can't really charge them for pejari and all of those things. So for this meeting specifically, I was just saying, Chair, let's not say we'll see them at the colloquium. If you can apply it through the chair of chairs or the speaker, and we have a special day where we deal with the middleman schemes at the NSFAS. And then, Prof, if you want to win our hearts, we've given you the formula.
The colloquium is a very serious meeting of parliament. So no one will come there and just say anything and there's no consequences. Yeah, it's not an imbizo. I know it's election time, therefore you are busy with imbizos. So we are going to have these two meetings. But the colloquium, so the colloquium will start it as a colloquium on day one, which is the 28th. And because there's too many presentations there, we may not have enough time to speak. We'll just absorb, and then we'll do, obviously we'll bring the proposal here, we'll do an inquiry on student accommodation where we apply to Parliament to have a 3-day or 4-day inquiry. Different days, maybe can run through a month, where we are now interrogating the presentation of these institutions and conclude with the recommendations that will take to Parliament and ultimately take to the President to enforce, because especially on this issue of, I saw the students who, after meeting certain providers, accommodation providers, they say no, scrap the cap, give universities and accommodation providers a blank check to decide how much they want to charge, which is a very dangerous thing that is going to cripple not only NSFAS or student accommodation, it's going to cripple higher education. In 3 years, if we do that, in 3 years, you will be forced to pay 20,000 for a bed. And these students won't be there. And they don't seem to understand that particular point. And then the meeting with NSFAS and solution providers, Honorable Loans, is a separate matter. It's something that we might need to, because of the period now, we might need to do it virtually, maybe as a first meeting. But they must explain, NSFAS and them, they must explain what is it that they do, what is it that they are paid for, and all of those things. And then we'll enter into, we had asked NSFAS to go to court. The allegation that the initial court said go and settle or something like that, and they are demanding 1 billion from NSFAS. This is what we are being told, Prof. They are demanding 1 billion, and NSFAS is thinking or considering agreeing to that request. I don't know where you are going to get it. When already you have 15 billion in that you wanted to say something before we close.
Yeah, you mentioned something about legal. There is a legal review for determination of the solution partner contracts. It is sitting at that stage. So just to add, it has something that's been considered, and the SIU has also investigated the termination of the solution partner contracts.
Yeah, no, that meeting will help us. We still wanted that meeting. Thanks for, in fact, it's 2 weeks from now, we do have a meeting with the SIU on something else. We'll ask them to, on the site, brief us on this thing. Maybe, DM, let me thank you for being here the whole day. And night and now morning. Really appreciate administrator. Really appreciate also being with us, especially after coming from seeing your doctor. We don't take that for granted. With the rest of your team, DDGs, acting DG. I don't know today must call you DDG or acting DG. But thank you very much to both of you, Tandy, for being here. Members, thank you very much for your continued selflessness in saving the people of South Africa. I hope that they will not forget yourselves. The staff of Parliament, there's no other staff that is being abused like you guys because of these members. But we want to thank PLOs to the Minister and the DG. We don't take your presence here for granted, and the administration staff from the university branch was here with us. We really don't take this for granted. I think we'll write to you to clarify certain things, give us information on a number of things. But I think from the morning, the bone of contention would have been the interpretation of 17C of NSFAS. In my view, 17C is very clear. There would have been newspaper articles on it with National Treasury clarifying what it means, and NSFAS still came here and gave us a different interpretation that we don't believe exists. We don't believe that administrator, there's a gray area on how the advisors were supposed to be paid. Well, we believe that they were not supposed to be paid to begin with, without the concurrence. But because they were being paid, we believe that being paid through companies was actually it was irregular to pay them, but it was illegal to even pay them through their companies. Wes, I've made an example, and maybe because there's two matters that we do not really touch, is this one of the regionalization versus decentralization. We don't think you must go and give us a business plan and say, because you can't say it's expensive to decentralize as compared to regionalize, but you don't give us numbers. I mean, how do you get to the expensive part? We don't think that is the case. But the purpose of us having wanted NSFAS to decentralize was for a child who's in Tanin, who is attending at Letaba TVET College, to have access to NSFAS. With your current plan, which you say universities love, that child who's in Tanin must still drive 400 kilos to Pretoria. How's that creating access? Honorable Lowe spoke about, there's a place called DR in the Northern Cape. There's a TVET college there called Northern Cape Rural TVET College. I've been to that TVET. On my way there, Honorable Boshoff took me to, what is that place of theirs? Orania. That's how far it is. You must first pass Orania. It's very far. So that child who's there in the DR, going to, what is, Honorable Souls, what is that town where your president was mayor for 3 months? Beaufort West. Beaufort West. From DR to Beaufort West, it's about 5 hours. From DR to Kimberley, it's about 5 hours. So literally, there's no easier place for this child who would be at. So this thing of regionalization.
Sorry, Chair. My president was the district mayor
Yeah.
of Central Karoo.
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah.
was the executive mayor of
Yeah.
Beaufort West.
Yeah. No, I apologize. I apologize, Honorable Soul, the former executive mayor of Beaufort West. So, so let's have this discussion because, and let it bring facts around it. I don't think none of the members here are convinced about regionalization. We'll create space. Let's have this discussion. And remember the ultimate goal is to make the life of that particular child, any other child, to have access to assistance. The reasoning that you gave, we're going to challenge it in the next meeting when we meet, that it will be a post office to have somebody there who must still get assistance. Why would that be the case? Because you can just make sure this person understand the system and they've got access to the system. They will access the system live at an institution. If you are saying they can't access it, how are they going to access it in the regional office? Because it's the same thing. If the system runs from Pretoria, let's assume you are in Pretoria, where you run manual issues there. Even if the person is in the Free State, Northern Cape and Northwest office, how are they going to access that system? So let's have that discussion and let's be practical, because the examples that you gave did not really assist us to agree with you. So, but we are going to close. I know that you guys went to court. Your judgment is reserved. We wish you all the best. And we hope that when we meet next time, we'll have, especially this regionalization plan, you'll go develop it properly, and maybe we'll give you time. We'll communicate with you. If you want us to give you 3 weeks, let's give you 3 weeks.
Chair, who are you wishing the best between the? It's NSFAS versus NSFAS. There.
No, I'm wishing NSFAS all the best.
NSFAS 1 or NSFAS 2?
No, NSFAS, NSFAS. No. Man, I'm very neutral, so I can't choose A or B. Administrator, before the 20th of August, before you open this thing, make sure that your system is. Let me tell you why you have so many unfunded, or whose profiles say funding eligibility. And then when we inquire, you say missing documents. It's because of this period. They will apply on the 20th. But because they are in matric, they are young, they are interacting with the system for the first time. They are going to press yes, the system closes before they upload their parents' IDs. And NSFAS always argues that I've tried to speak to these students. We can't get hold of them. And students say, NSFAS has never spoken to me. So you are going to have another 10,000 students who are eligible for funding, who get accepted at institutions, but you won't fund them because the application was not complete. So I don't know how you are going to do, because in my view, I would have said, with immediate effect, go to provinces with premiers. Let them and NYDA go to the most rural areas, go help these kids, go maybe create, maybe let's not allow them to apply on their own first. Maybe let's put together teams to go help them so that the applications that enter the system, we know there are applications that are complete, there are applications that will make sure that they do get the funding that they desperately need. But you need a plan, because that has been a recurring problem over the years. And I want to close by saying, Administrator, we hope that tomorrow won't wake up, and this has happened before, that we bring people to Parliament, they testify before Parliament on this and that, and the following day a Vice Chancellor or a CEO or a administrator charges those people for what they would have said in Parliament. I'm sure you are aware of certain laws of Parliament that gives certain protection to certain people. Obviously, the protections are not unvetted. They also come with responsibilities, which even ourselves will go through on Section 17 of the Powers Privileges and Immunities Act of provincial legislatures and parliament. But we don't want to hear stories tomorrow that person A or person B has been given a letter to explain why they should not be suspended. Would have received a number of complaints about the advisors actually being very operational and not advising you on the operations by the substantive managers. We did not get to that point. I think it's only Honorable Low who touched on it a little bit. I have seen there was, I think, 1 or 2 media releases that NSFAS had released that would have been signed by your advisor as a spokesperson there instead of your spokesperson. We had seen that part, which we would have wanted to go through, and how is that possible when they are supposed to be advisors? There is a clear line where we should not cross on governance. You are brought in there to clean up governance. The first one that we dealt with today did not sit well with us about the understanding of how our advisors, firstly, are brought in, how and when should they be paid, and the dishonesty between the 2.4 million as a total cost to company that was communicated vis-a-vis that 259,000 that was charged, which takes it to above 3 million. These are public funds. We must find ways of always protecting them. And so those, for me, on governance issues, I'm a bit worried, I must indicate. I'm worried about the stability of universities from tomorrow, Tandi. I'm very worried, and I hope there's a plan somewhere that we don't have. Okay, Tandi, there's no problem. We'll see. I hope on Monday we don't wake up that somebody did not get their salary at University X, and as a result they could not process their debit orders and all of that. So from a policy point of view, I think the minister indicated that there are changes that must be done in the sustainability of the scheme. We fully agree, and that must happen as a matter of urgency. And we hope next time when we meet, we won't take 12 hours. This meeting could have easily finished in 6 hours, but the way we want to respond creates our meetings to be long. The meeting stands adjourned.